everyone, and welcome once again to our special Kathy's Corner. This is our special series each month when Kathy Stone, a professional photo organizer, now retired to focus on her own work and coach others, joins us with tips, tricks, insights, and directions for handling your own photos, artifacts, and other treasured heirlooms that come to you in the stuff you get from family. So today we have a very special guest, and I'm going to tip it off to Kathy to introduce her. Go ahead, please, Kathy.
Thanks, Barbara, and welcome everyone. We're happy you joined us again today, and I am delighted because the topic today is metadata. And I've talked a bit about metadata in the past, but I'm not. I don't think I'd call myself an expert in the metadata field. So I thought, well, I'm going to get some help from Maureen Taylor, who's been doing some posting on Substack about metadata recently. So I thought, well, this is perfect. She's working on this right now. She's all up to date. My stuff is pretty old, but I'm just so delighted to have Maureen here today. For those of you who may have not heard of Maureen, she's a frequent keynote speaker on photo identification, photo preservation, and family history at historical and genealogical societies, museums, conferences, and other organizations. Just don't do this, but I have to because it's just. I'll shorten it down. She's been on all kinds of TV shows from her background in identifying photos and what's in a historical photo, which is where I first, many years ago, came across Maureen's work. And two of my favorite books, Preserving Family Photos and The Family Photo Detective, which are both available on her website, because I used them a lot in my work as a photo manager with client photos in identifying old photos and what's in those old photos. And that's something that I was delighted when Maureen joined us on Substack, and we had a little chat during Roots Tech, I think, with Barbara. We did a little live from Roots Tech, and Maureen and I got talking about old photos. So if we don't have enough stuff on metadata to talk about, we'll get onto the old photos, but definitely Maureen's background in photo, the history of photos, and I think I got to read the one line that I liked. Your skills live at the junction of history, genealogy, and photography. And I think that's indeed the case. So really, really a perfect fit, I think, for us here at Kathy's Corner. So I'll let you take it away, Maureen, and we'll jump in whenever we need to.
All right. Well, Barbara and Kathy, thank you so much for having me in Kathy's Corner. And welcome to the rest of you that came to listen to about metadata. But, do you know, I guess it would be important to sort of find out by a show of hands how many of the people in the audience are already aware of metadata and what it does. Bill, a little bit.
Little bit.
Yeah. Let's just do a little thumbs up. That's cute. That's great. I've been working with metadata for a number of years now. I was chair of the SaveMetadata.org group for 3 years. And the purpose of that group, which used to be called the Family History Metadata Working Group, and we changed that, thank God, was to develop some standards for the genealogy industry, because we don't have any standards, like none. And there's pretty much not any metadata standards anyway. So we developed them, but there are hundreds of fields that companies can choose. And it breaks down into 4 things. The metadata 4, which is if you already have metadata in your images embedded in the digital file, because it's digital, can the website or program that you're using actually read what you already have? And then will it let you add metadata? And that's fine. A lot of them let you add metadata, even if they can't read it. But then will they let you edit your existing metadata if it can read it? And then the final thing, which is always the breaking point, is will they let you export that file with all that metadata that you added? And it is very surprising to a lot of people that does not happen. I recently had a client, and we were I was helping her sort of figure out a plan for her photos. And she was like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to add all my metadata to my photographs, and then I'm going to upload them to MyHeritage, Family Search, and Ancestry.com. And I said, let's just take a step back on that. You can add all the metadata you want, but some of these sites, actually all of these sites, don't really do much with your metadata. And in the case of Family Search, it actually strips it all out so that you entered all this metadata and you put your file up on Family Search and it's all gone. MyHeritage, I think, does the same thing. Hold on, I have it right here. There's only a few that I have in my metadata compatibility and comparison thing, but let's talk about a few things first. So we know that this is a danger, right? We have the files. When a couple of companies went out of, not, I guess, out of the digital photo organizing business this past year, 2024, actually, a lot of people panicked because then they started uploading their photographs to other programs and other websites, and they suddenly determined that they thought that all their metadata that they had added was gone. It wasn't gone. So I just have a few slides. Open my program, share my screen. And for genealogists, metadata is like super important. Okay, so you can see this.
Yep.
This is basic metadata for genealogists. You know, obviously we want to keep track of all the people in our photographs or in our documents that are mentioned in our documents. There's workarounds for all of these. Location, there's two different kinds of metadata, IPTC and EXIF. XF is what's, if you use a digital camera or a cell phone to take pictures, there's some basic photo-centric information that's automatically added to your pictures. But you might want to add location as a metadata field. You'll probably want to add a description or a caption for that photograph, or maybe there's a caption on that photo when you want to save it. The date, you want to put it in albums, or you want to add information about which album it is in your storage area, whatever you want to do with it. And you can create as many albums as you want in a digital format. Keywords, other things like, say you want to create a collection you use as a sort of tag mustaches, because you have all these people in your family that have mustaches, or hats, or brides, or something like that. So you can include that as keywords. And then copyright details, if you have downloaded that image from a website, like you downloaded a census record from Ancestry.com, that is actually a digital file that you can add copyright details to. But I also think of copyright as ownership. So where did you get that photograph from? Your cousin Sally, your mother. You want to put that in there too, so you always have that information. So this is sort of basic metadata information that you want to save because it preserves the information about your image. And that's great. If, however, you upload an image to a website or a photo organizer, you know, and you can't see it, immediately the panic sets in that it's not there anymore. It's there, it's just that the website doesn't read it. So if you upload an image to, say, Facebook has their policy is not to read the metadata. It's a privacy thing, an illegal thing. Family Search, same thing. Your metadata is still in the file, it just doesn't read it. And so we talked about the read, write, edit, and export, how different they all are. So I mentioned that there are hundreds of fields, and there are for IPTC and EXIF. But when we worked as a team for years with Save Metadata, there were different groups that worked on different fields. So I was in the group that worked on description. What description fields were we going to pick in IPTC? And then we came up with a list of, we thought, not rules, but some guidance for the field. Please adopt our standards. And no one has, well, there are some companies that stand out better than the others. So if you're thinking about forever.com reads most metadata, and you can export things, you can edit, you can write, things like that. It's VividPix Restore, which is actually a restoration software. You can read all the metadata because Rick Voigt of VividPix is on the committee. He's actually currently chair of Save Metadata. So it would be kind of embarrassing if, as the chair, he didn't adopt the standards. So he did. What else? Adobe Bridge, excellent choice. Free photo organizer, and you can read the stuff in there. And then we got Adobe Bridge. It's gone right out of my head. Mylio, exactly. That's the one, Mylio. So Mylio also can read all the metadata. They were on the committee for a little while too. But all the big genealogy companies, no. Most of the photo organizers, no. Genealogy programs, nope. They don't read it either, as far as I know. We haven't done a whole lot of testing on that, but I think that's the new angle for us on the committee to sort of work on, is which genealogy programs might we be able to get to adhere to the standards. So when you upload an image, all your information is already there and you don't have to add it again. Why does this all matter, though? Why is it so important to us on the committee? And why am I writing a series of articles about metadata? Because we have worked hard on our family history. We've worked hard to identify those photographs for the most part, right? You want it to be portable. You want to be able, as a customer, to decide, like my client, that you want to add your metadata and then upload it to all the various websites that you use and have that information there so that the story travels from platform to platform, no matter what you're using. That does not happen. Also, with metadata comes searchability. So the metadata can help you find your images on your computer, in your program of the ones that I mentioned. You can find them fast, within seconds. And that's really important as well. I mean, how much time have you spent searching your hard drive or your phone looking for a photo? And then preservation, the files hold the metadata and that preserves your information, all of that stuff that you've added. Now, what I did when those two companies sort of stopped offering their program and people were really panicking about what have happened to all that metadata that they'd added, and not all of it, it's all there. And I could see it. Sometimes I have to re-enter it, or sometimes you have to sort of decide what your workaround is, like what field is the field on that program that you're going to use that then will export to another program that you'll be able to read. It's tough. So what I did was a series of YouTube videos that are on my YouTube channel, Maureen Taylor, the photo detective, which you can watch. They're all pretty short. They're under 3 minutes, pretty much each. One of the things I recommend, and I can stop sharing now. I just have that slide that tells you how to reach me, but I don't need that. You want to have a test image. So take one of your pictures. I wrote about this on Substack. It was my first column on metadata on Substack. So you can find it on my Substack page. And it said, make a test image with one of those things, Forever, Mylio, a bridge, and then use that upload, put all your metadata in there, fill up all the fields, and then see what happens when you move it to whatever website you want to use or program you want to use. See what fields that program actually can read, because you got all the fields there, especially in Bridge. They have a lot of IPTC fields. And then when you've done that, then you'll know for sure what fields you want to enter information into if you're going to use one of those 4 programs. But I'm going to repeat this again. If you upload your images to like Facebook or Family Search and some of the others, it isn't going to be there. It's not going to happen. You're not going to see it. I need to expand this. So Google Photos, for instance, I'm going to just go down here for a minute. Close that up. Google Photos reads the basic EXIF data and some IPTC, but you cannot write image metadata to the images except for the date and the time. You can change those. It preserves some metadata and it will export images with already embedded metadata. I don't recommend using Google Photos anyway. Forever.com reads metadata or a lot of the fields. It allows the writing of the metadata. I was just testing it and it seemed to have made even more improvements so that it exported everything. I know it's a controversial thing for me to say. I use Google Photos, but I don't necessarily recommend it for all my family photos. And your guys are going to disagree. And we're going to have an argument in just a minute. I just know it. Yeah. Kathy is.
Maybe just a difference of opinion from Barbara.
Difference of opinion. Apple Photos, it reads some data. Some of these things read some data, but I'm not really happy with it. I would prefer the genealogy world would adapt our standards, which are pretty basic. It's like people, place, and date. We've even narrowed it down a little bit. We used to have like broader standards, and now we've narrowed it down to the absolute basics, trying to get people to say just save this caption, this, and it's not really going anywhere. It's expensive for these companies to do it, and they have legal reasons they don't want to do it. But anybody have any questions, or tell me what your experiences are with metadata? Yeah, Barbara.
I'll step into this one on having had a platform and made the decision about what to support and not support, knowing that we were marketing it to a genealogy community. First of all, we supported all EXIF data because without a support for at least the rotation in EXIF data, you're screwed up. I uploaded a picture and it was this way, and now it's this way, and it's always have to rotate it. That's actually defined in the EXIF data. And then Apple has a special way of doing it. So you have to have a special case for Apple. And then our big concern was that users would take a photo and share it, and then somehow, well, this was an earlier iteration, but that any photo that somebody innocently uploaded gets reshared and has that location information specifying exactly where that person lives. I mean, just to spell out the privacy concern.
Right.
And that's what, I scanned it at my home and then I shared it. It's not where the event was. So as the genealogist, I want to go fix it to show it what happened in Abilene, Kansas on 3rd Street. But I'd scanned it in my home, and all of my intelligent devices know it was in my home. And now that photo tells the world where I live. So, that's a big deal. That's not a bad thing. It's a good thing, actually. It's a good thing to default not sharing the information.
Yeah.
But people don't understand that. They don't understand why. And is Ancestry a social platform? Well, if you ask Ancestry in their heart of hearts, you bet it is. Because they want they want people to bring in other people. That's the whole point.
Mhm.
And it's part of their business model. So I see it both sides. And yes, I do use Google Photos because it's convenient, and I haven't been willing to spend the money to convert everything to something better because I know it's better. But that's where I sit. And so that also lets me wear the dark coat when we come into this topic, because I just do it so that everybody else feels better. If, they're doing something that's not perfect, I'm here to be imperfect.
I
So with
agree
that,
with you. I think stripping out that information or defaulting to not have that information of where you scanned it in the EXIF data is great. I think more important to me is the IPTC data, the stuff that you
mhm.
added in.
Here's why I think sites like Ancestry or Family Search or others who are already messing with the files, they take
Yeah.
files in and then mess with them in the sense of modifying them, especially somebody like MyHeritage, which is really messing with files as they come in, image files. It seems to me that they have a potential to create a nifty little tool that lets you lay in all of the genealogy related information, and you've already done the work to define what that really important stuff is. Push a button and squirt it all in for you. I mean, wouldn't that be awesome?
It would
And
be
they could
awesome.
absolutely do that. Why have they chosen not to? And I think it goes back to, I think hiding behind privacy is a little lazy for them. I think the reason they're not doing it is just because metadata is a nerdy, scary topic and nobody gets excited. They'd rather get excited about a face turning in a GIF than in I did this really important thing. Yeah, don't even get me started about nerdy features. They're the right thing to do, but they aren't sexy. People don't see them.
The
I think
metadata,
that's
yeah.
why.
We thought we had Family Search on board. I mean,
Then what?
I don't know. We modified the standards for them.
It's
They,
likely to be
Probably
a
went to go
dollar issue.
chase.
it's a
Yeah,
dollar issue. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
yeah. They
mean,
probably went to go chase a new shiny object that was AI or something like that. I
yeah,
mean,
Well, and I think as they are all trying to keep up with each other in that
yeah,
ancestry,
yeah.
all those areas, then as you say, Bill, the dollar becomes more important. And as you say, Barbara, the shiny features are what people are going to go, oh wow, is that ever neat? As nobody goes, oh wow,
Yeah.
metadata, is that ever cool?
That
Except
is cool.
nerds like us who go, oh, there's no metadata.
But
Get
it
that
is, but it
metadata.
is cool.
It is, yeah.
It is cool.
And so I've
it,
come from the world from as a photo manager because of when I started being a photo manager, which was I think I figured out that yesterday or something's 12 or 13 years ago. Sorry, I have camera issues. I have to turn my
Yeah.
camera off and back on because it goes blurry. I must sit still and not move. Um, we used ITPC standards back then, and it's a lot of it from our point of view. And I like how you narrowed it down to what's important because in the IPTC standards, and I think you can correct me if I'm wrong, started by the international standards for the press corps, and it started back
Mhm.
in the days of photos being sent over the wire, and it
Yep.
was how they put all the important information into the photograph, into the things that were shipped into the data being sent over the wire as they used to in the old days there. And there were so many fields that when we started looking at that and we weren't being at that point we weren't being too what's the word? I can't think of the word. We were trying to do all of them, and some of them are totally irrelevant. Like, so we'd get into the standards, and I was using Photo Mechanic at the time to do my IPTC data, and there were so many fields that weren't really that important that you could
Okay.
go down a big rabbit hole trying to fill out all these different standards. So I do like the programs now that sort of narrow it down to, and somebody was said it's like the stuff you used to write on the back of the photo. Except please
Yeah.
let's write more information than on the back of the photo. Like I always use my example. I've got my brother Dan written on the back of a photo, an old photo. Unfortunately, my mother or my grandmother and my grandfather both had brother Dans. And when I try to compare that particular photo with either of the other two photos I have of the whole families because we don't have a whole bunch of photos. Like, but I could use AI now to try and compare it. But I'm like, I don't know which brother Dan that was, other than I guess it was my grandfather's because my great uncle Dan on my grandma's side was killed in World War One, so it would have had to have been taken. And it is a very young man, so it's just like, oh, please write a little bit more. And the same as metadata. If you're going to put the metadata in, include all those important things.
Yeah. Yeah. Treat it like like the stuff you write on the back of the photo, only a little bit more information.
Detail.
And it's okay to include in the XF data when you scanned it.
Yeah.
Because that's
Yeah.
important. It tells you something about quality.
Yeah.
It's
That's a good
kind of,
point too.
as I think about this, it's so much like in digital networking. Excuse me, but Bill understands me. Back the IT background in the early days of digital networks. Old networks were waveforms. Okay, in the early days of digital networks, both sides of the digital network need to agree about what protocol you're speaking.
Okay.
And so you have the notion of in-band and out-of-band signaling that tells you what's happening. And it's a fundamental principle that applies to virtually every kind of digital network. And it's kind of the same way. And I was thinking about this, you know what? If I am Family Search even or Ancestry, I want to encourage you to come to my platform to see the story and not have it just travel, just put it in a capsule and disappear. I want you to come to see me. And I think that's just the fundamental challenge. Now, that said, why doesn't Epson, that makes the damn scanners and sends it with their damn scanner software, say, what date would you like to put in for all of these files? For the next 20 files, what date would you like to put in? Well, it lets us put in the name of the prepend the name with 1984 or whatever. And that's the best we've got, right? And did I miss something?
Right.
No, I don't think that's the scanning equipment I've used for years, which is Kodak, which they don't make anymore. But I can title the scans, but I'm stuck trying to put every bit of metadata into the name, which
Yeah.
increases the time it takes to scan things. So I don't use that method, but you can't change the date that the scan date stays as the same. And so you've got all these photos which is what I'm working on right now, which need the dates put into a field somewhere so that you can tell the difference between the scan date and the actual date.
I mean, one of the most useful things with a photo organizing software is batch.
Yes. Right, exactly.
Yes.
So you can select a whole bunch of photos and then like, this is the date I want to put on those photos, or this is the same person.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and then, some sites now have really good facial recognition. The forever.com's facial recognition is just amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I think probably one of the best out there.
It's tremendous. I've watched the features develop, and that the facial recognition is just like making one's life so much easier. Because I've digitized a whole bunch. I've got a bunch of my old family photos and negatives digitized, and it's so much faster just to be able to do that. And it was, again, as our Ponga platform, which was organized by people, because we always shed a tear at the collapse. Speaking of programs that didn't last, of our dear Ponga, which most of you probably don't remember, but some of it Linda does. Linda was one of the ones there. So it's I think like your point, Maureen, that whatever you're using, you've to test and make sure that you can get out whatever you want that you've put in.
Yes.
And I think that's something, like, from the point of view of a photo organizer, it's sort of, what information do you want? Like, what is important to you? I'm working on a client's collection right now, which goes back to the 1800s, and I'm putting a field in that indicates that they are from the collection of the person who they came from, just so somebody knows that's where they came from. when I do my own family photos, I might not bother with that field. I might not really, because half of them, like they came from all over the place, but which might then be interesting to people down the road because I discovered as I inherited more family photos that there's a set of pictures that were taken when one of my aunts joined the Canadian Air Force in the 50s. And I always had a picture that was my mom's of her with her
Yeah.
sisters. And then as I got the other sisters' photos, there are a bunch, everybody got a picture. They were all different. They were all different poses and everyone was slightly different. So it's like, oh, maybe it is important to say this came from which aunt it came from, but
Yeah.
it's because I figured everybody had the same picture, that we'd all have that there was one photo. But so I think that that to me is and I think it's those basic, like as you say, the genealogical facts that we need, like the the caption or a description, the name, the date, the see, I've forgotten the four already. Location, that's the other one. And I then I think the keywords become important too. Like you say, if you've got something, I've been shifted kind of for keywords to doing because of some of the search capabilities now with AI and everything. I've been shifting away to doing my keywords with more things like vacation as a key, and but the place we that was a frequent vacation spot or a location. My client, her, they lived in like forget how many, I always lose track, about 30 places between when they got married in 1939 and moved to Canada in 1949. They lived in about 30 places in the US. So location on those scans is really important.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas for me, if we lived in the same place the whole time, then maybe it's not as important.
Yeah. I mean, there's workarounds to some of these that don't get read.
Yeah.
Like if you have albums, you can have as many digital albums as you want for a
Yes.
person in a photo organizer, not necessarily on your computer. So you have to think about that. And I'm sure, Kathy, you know how to, talk about that issue. But
Mm.
um, if you can work around it by uploading like a whole album of people or of a vacation spot to one of these
Yeah.
places and it doesn't read the metadata, but it says, oh, this is the title of your album, then
Yeah.
that's good too. But if it just wipes all
Mhm.
that away, I mean, there's so many ways to test this data. I haven't done it all. It's a
Linda,
future article.
I have a question, if I could ask.
Mhm.
You were talking about, and I just went into my photos so that I know what we're talking about because I really never pay attention to this info, and that's where the metadata is, I guess.
Yep. Right click on the
Oh,
photo.
it's got, of course, I'm on a Mac. Add caption, add keyword, add faces, but it also has the location. But I could click on it and I could put anything there. So if you're concerned about uh somebody finding out they can't, like I could, it has Newburgh, Indiana on this picture I took of the flower, but I could put anything on it. So the
Mhm.
concern that you were saying about either Barbara, you were saying, or Maureen, you were saying that you're concerned about people knowing about it, the privacy, it's kind of like I can put anything on it.
Yeah, I think depends on where the source of the photo. If you're taking pictures with your phone, I have my location turned off on my phone because
Mm,
I will decide to add because I share them on social media. I use my photos everywhere, so I don't want because as Barbara said, it's going to show my house location, so I don't want that publicly. But when I go in and edit my metadata, then I can put in, it was Calgary, and I don't necessarily need to put in the exact geotag. As Barbara said in the scanners, I'm not sure that my Kodaks, I'd have to look, I'll pull a scan up and have a look if it actually says a location for where my scanner was when we did the scanning. I'm not sure it had that feature. So, but it goes back to, I think, Linda, to making sure you check what is particular when you start sharing, if you're sharing with your family, it's private. But when you get sharing beyond just your little family group, then I think that's where the privacy concerns might come in. And anybody else
Oh,
can jump in on that. That's just a wild opinion of mine.
to clarify, I think I also have a Mac. I do a right click or get info on any image
Yep.
file. It includes a comments field that you can absolutely, Linda, write anything you'd like in there. I don't see, just looking at a few sample photos of my own, I don't see where it is picking up the direct location information in the file. Now, I know for my own photos, I absolutely always disable if I have an option, I will disable that as a location sharing in photos. But looking at photos of others, I'm not seeing that would appear. It's an automated function that is using the GPS information from your phone or from your camera to display that information. And it may not be directly visible in Get Info is what I'm trying to say. Does that make sense?
Yep.
I'd be happy to take a look at any file. I did have a question for you,
looking at
though.
one right now, I'm not seeing a comment field.
Yeah, because you also have a Mac.
It's caption, add caption.
Yeah, add
Yeah.
caption.
Take Newburgh out, but still, I guess the map still is there.
You can
That's
delete
the map is the
I could put Indiana. Well, if I do that, Indiana, then they think I'm talking about Indianapolis. Well, it went into Indianapolis.
You can delete the map by just deleting the information. If you click on the information in the map, like not on the map itself, but the location right above the map, it highlights it blue, and then you hit delete, and it gets rid of the map.
Oh, okay.
Because talking about the Apple app, the Photos app on a Macintosh. I see.
Photo,
I'm talking about the Finder level Get Info. Separate thing. Yeah.
Different.
But it all still goes to the same general point about the intentionality of including location and then the awareness that the information is shared for good or bad. To your point earlier, Maureen, about workarounds, I wondered if you had any specific suggestions for those of us, for example, using Substack, where for every picture included in any post, you have the option of including alt data, alt text about the photo, which initially is designed for the blind to see what it is that a picture is about as you're reading through copy. We all know that alt data is actually also used in search. So some of us, not saying who, has been known to put other information in there that I want to go along with my photos as they're moved around, just saying. I find it important to put a caption anytime I have a picture that is not just, decorative graphics, but has a content purpose to a picture. I put the caption in there. And frankly, I'd not thought of the discipline of including name, date, location, and then that caption. I think that's a really good idea for a discipline. Never mind what is in the body. I do frequently copy a caption and slap it into the alt text data just so I don't have to think too hard. Because people do.
Yeah, I'm gonna check that out right now.
It's like I always remember who, what, when, where, why, how as am I telling the story? Is there something important I'm leaving out? But I love I need a little mnemonic for name, date, location, caption. And the caption is really why, why is it here? Why is this important? What's the point? Right?
Right. Yeah, I haven't been doing too much with the alt data, but I need to do more with that. That's interesting how you use it. Definitely interesting. Because if it is all searchable, then you can put all kinds of information in there.
Yeah. And when you go in most apps, most browsers, when you go to an image in the browser, you can right click to download it. That's how people steal images, just saying. Not that I do that. I don't. No, but in all seriousness, when I do, for example, my timelines, I now have my Stories 250 timeline that includes photos of yours, for example, Maureen.
Yeah.
I just right click, copy, link to image, paste, link to image, and poof, it's embedded. And because that application also creates an opportunity for me to include alt text, and I want to improve my, my bada bing mojo for search. I just take whatever the caption was in the original picture, copy paste, and put it into alt text.
Where are
I
you
did that
putting,
today.
how do you put the alt text in?
In Substack, when you paste in an image, there's a three-dot menu at the upper right-hand corner of the image when you're in edit. You tap on that, it drop down, you can add a caption.
Yeah, it's not. Well, let's
Not
talk
finding
about
it?
that another time. No, there's no dots.
Well, they're under the other thing because there's something that gets in there, and then you got to kind of click on the picture, and then the dots come up.
When you're in edit mode on your own article.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, on your own article, your picture. Yeah, because I've had trouble with that other thing that's on top of it, but it will move off and you can get to the dots.
I'll be looking.
Yeah.
And I'm not
Okay.
seeing it right away.
And I think
I just created a post, like a fake post, and put a image in there. And
Mouse over it, you get a square
oh,
around
there they
it.
are. Mouse over it. They popped up like little white dots. Look at that.
Oh, let's see, I have a mouse over it. I just click on it, and it finally comes up.
I have trouble with that because sometimes I can't get it to work. What are you doing?
Mouse over.
Mouse over.
Technically, it's called a hover, but
like mouse over better.
Yeah, there it
I
is.
do too.
Other questions about metadata?
It wasn't there for the longest time, and now it won't go away. Thank you.
So is it
Any more
really
questions about metadata? What do
really
you think?
that important? Is it really that important? I mean, people have stolen pictures from my families, from on Ancestry, and ended up putting them down and then reposting them up so they don't know they're from me. And the problem is I contact her and she says, I just didn't understand. I didn't know that I could just, connect to it. But so they're all, a lot of them are under her name, and which is okay. And I explained to her that it needed to be under my name so that if anybody have any questions about it, since she doesn't know, she has no idea who these people are. Even though they're anyway. I guess the whole thing is how important, especially if nobody else can read it. If we're having trouble with, with sites not doing it, I don't understand why we're going to go to all. I'm kind of playing the devil's advocate here. Why do it?
Well, it's like alt text, right? You put it in there, you can search it,
easy.
You can say that it's yours. If somebody downloads the image, does that metadata stay with the image? There's so much testing, but the theft of images is definitely a problem. Yeah. And
I think from the perspective of photographers, which again, having started this with press and photojournalists, they were paid per photo. So they wanted to protect their photo. So it stands to reason, it's perfectly reasonable. Among genealogists, where many of us are dealing with 100-year-old photos that were passed down in the family, there's not an owns the photo, but has the knowledge of who these people are.
Right.
And I think that's what's so important. And if you can put something in that goes around with the photo, that's powerful. Which, by the way, brings me my devil's advocate question. Totally valid, helpful question, Linda. My devil's advocate question would be, hey, I use Google Lens all the time. I found a little tuft of fluff on the ground the other day. I wanted to know what it was. I took a picture of it. I went to Google Photos. I looked at Google Lens and said, oh, milkweed. So, I use Google Lens the other way all the time on the web as well. Where else has this picture been published? And that gives me context.
Right. I want to know about this picture that was put on Facebook that is wrong, and people are saying it's something else, and I know that it's not Obama's administration. So I want to know exactly where it was come. So you put, I went to Google and uploaded to Google thinking they would be able to tell me, but I can't find. So with
So
Google Lens.
I've just attended a virtual conference, and the speaker I was listening to was Kurt Luther of the Civil War Photo Sleuth. Do you know him? He does
Oh
an
yeah.
amazing site. Like, he's just so smart with his computer programming and the stuff that he's doing. But he was saying, somebody asked him in the audience, they said, why is the facial recognition software on these major websites like Google, for instance, everybody's thinking, not as good as it used to be? And so he had an answer for that. And his answer was that they no longer want to, because it's controversial, legal, and otherwise. So that while a couple of years ago, even, you could search that picture, Linda, with people's faces in it and maybe come up with a match, you might not come up with the same match today.
Well, there's
They
no
paid about
faces
$1 billion.
then.
There's no faces.
Yeah, no, they paid about $1 billion fine in Europe because of the European privacy laws.
Oh, KDPR stuff.
Yeah.
That would do it. Barbara, you're muted.
Oh, yeah.
Can't hear you.
That's such a good point, too.
For the private.
It looked like a good
Well,
point.
the privacy, of course, and the GDPR, I mean, all the privacy rules in Europe have helped the rest of the world on that point. But to a certain extent, I think they even over on Google Photos, they have kind of made it the interface hard. That's a way of saying, oh, we don't need to show you everything that we can do, because they're selling that for a great deal of money to law enforcement and other forces these days. However, Google Lens is different, and you can always get to Google Lens from a photo you already have. Log into a Google account, go to images.google.com, and take your image and drag and drop it into the interface. From there, it'll do everything that is publicly searchable and tell you if that photo appears or something close to it. It's not perfect at all. It's not really trying to be. It's trying to be close enough to be a search function. There used to be a platform out there called TinEye. I used to use it all the time, which was really, it was going after the same exact image hash. And I think it's no longer publicly available. Is it still there?
Yeah, I just.
The site's there, but does it still work?
I don't know.
For a search.
Well,
all right, give it a try. I thought the reason it might now be failing or just sort of not there was because they're doing it for, they've got commercial clients. So a commercial client would want to use a tool like this to see, think back to the photojournalist who says, hey, somebody's stealing my photos. And they can come back and say, that photo, it's exactly the same. You are using my photo. People like all the stock photo people want to do that. Is it working?
It's me that did something wrong. So hold on for a second. I'm gonna.
I got it to work on what you said, Barbara. Found the exact photo. Tell me what it was. FDR 1934. So exact photo, and because I had already put it down on my computer, and so I uploaded it just in the wrong place. But yeah, that's great.
God,
yeah,
I can't believe it. I put the link in the chat. Well, and I think too with the this, because this is fresh in my mind because Barbara knows it happened to me, is having even if you don't know who the photographer is, but maybe the owners of the family. But I've been putting mine anything I'm sharing like on Substack now, copyright on them, because they are my photos. I own those photos, and it's disturbing to see them appear in someone else's presentation without permission. And so it's, Maureen's probably seen this a lot, but first time it happened to me, and it was like, okay, that's not only that is really my content, it's actually my photo from my thing. And so I don't know if that helps, probably not in this, because someone with evil intentions, which I don't think this was, but is going to use your stuff, like they're going to take your stuff anyway. But I think for someone who is checking like you're looking and saying, okay, if I find this photo, is it really free? Like, is it really nobody's photo? If the information is in the metadata, at least there's some way to
something,
tell.
something. So on Tinai, I usually use my headshot to see just how widespread it's actually used.
Yeah.
Like what sites you can actually find. Like I know lots of sites have used my picture, and it hardly turns up anything at all. But I'm glad that where'd Linda go? Linda, you did
She's
the
still here.
FTR, right?
I'm sorry, what?
You searched FDR. You had the picture of
Yeah,
FDR.
no, I didn't. No, I put up the picture that I got that was they had said was Obama's demolition. And I knew it wasn't because it's an old picture, you can look at tell it. And so I uploaded the old picture to Google. And I already I did that the other day, but it did yesterday, but it didn't work. But here it tells all about it, that it's 1934 with FTR. And I thought that was the timeline because I had researched it too.
In TinEye,
Huh?
using TinEye.
No, just go and do Google what
Google.
Barbara said, which
Google
I can't
Lens.
really repeat what
Google
Barbara
Lens,
said.
yeah.
Yeah, I use Lens all the
Yeah.
time.
But this
Yeah.
was on my I don't
So-
have one. Go ahead.
Can we back up to the copyright point? Because this, I think, again, harkens back to that original purpose for metadata, for having photographers be able to track where their photos are being used. As I said, the initial use of TinEye, the business model was to pay, to make sure that publishers could get paid for their photos and so on. You've been through a lot of this, Maureen. There are very specific rules for age of the original created item, and then when things are out of copyright, think the Mickey Mouse and Steamboat Willie is now out of copyright, so you can go ahead and use that anywhere you'd like. Talk a little bit, if you would, about copyright and old photos that you find, or even the guidance about what someone should do. I mean, I don't feel comfortable claiming copyright on a photo that I know my grandfather took and don't know exactly how many years ago. I don't claim copyright, though I do claim in the Harger family collection, because I know my cousins wouldn't argue with me about that one. What do you think we should do?
I have a long history with pictures as a curator, a librarian, a photo researcher, a publisher. I mean, my stuff with photos goes back a long way. And I like to think of it in terms of no one can really claim the copyright, but that doesn't mean they won't sue you for the use of their grandfather's image. That's what a lawyer said to me.
It's a good point.
But also, I believe it's ethical usage. So when you go to a site like Wikipedia or Wikimedia, which I'll just put that up. I'll put Wikimedia up there. Just so we can see what I'm talking about. Wikimedia is a site where you can find images. It's like Wikipedia, only more. So there's she's in a new movie, so that's important. So let's just look at fossils and just fossil footprints. And actually, it's a good example given the news. Ooh.
Louvre. Yeah.
Right? So it tells you artist unknown, anybody can use it, Louvre Museum. But is it okay for the Louvre Museum for you to use this or not? This says under Creative Commons attribution that anyone can use it. But that's not always the case. If you go to Wikipedia,
Attribution is important in that context.
attribution is important.
And it did say you
go
have to give attribution.
Right.
FDR. or what would be, I always do George Washington because there's so many pictures of him. And you go to this portrait of him, you click on it, it goes more details. It's in the public domain. It says the Gilbert Stuart Williamstown portrait of George Washington. It should really say what gallery owns this. So unethical use, when I do picture research for any of my books, Barbara, which is why it's been hard for me to do the 250th thing for you, is who actually owns that image, and are they okay with me using it? Did they actually give permission? Even though it's sort of in the public domain, it's in a private collection. So
The painting itself.
the painting.
Yeah,
What's
I
under?
can
What's
speak
under
to
more
that from my
details?
years.
Bill?
Yeah, no, I was gonna say I can speak to that from my years working for MoMA in New York City.
There you go. Great.
You know, for example, you know, we would have people all the time, and you'll see them all the time. Starry Night, you know, it's kind of the crown jewel of MoMA's collection, and MoMA is very particular about how it's used. Uh, for example, until a few years ago, they wouldn't let you do just a little, you know, like a corner of the painting. It was all or nothing.
Yeah.
And if painting, a lot of the paintings that are in any museum too, the actual image is controlled by the estate of the artist. For example, if it's a Matisse, for example, you know they still have the rights to those locked up. You have to get their permission in addition to permission from the museum. It's you do a lot of work to try to use any of those images.
It can be
If you're going to do it right.
very complicated, very and expensive sometimes.
And we did sue. You know, our
To
general
be fair,
counsel was very busy doing that.
To be fair, though, I mean, the Met is a great example, and probably the Louvre as well, I'll bet, of, you know, institutions that have just taken this as part of their DNA. You have others that can be found, for example, at the DPLA, Digital Public Library of America, or the Newberry Museum is one of my favorites, that have an extraordinary collection of pieces that are really encouraged. They're designed so that people will use them for educational purposes and whatnot. But coming back to the ethical perspective about that, I think that's very important, especially for what I tend to think of as pretty casual uses on Substack, is the responsibility to speak to those key points. And I'm going to use your 4 name, location, date, and caption. Those 4 statements of at least checking in your mind whether you're reflecting on the answer to those questions. And if you are, and you know, in this case, caption might very well be in the collection of the Metropolitan Museum of Art, you're at least being honest. And then you have to go back and speak to your point, Maureen. Would I be sued?
Yeah.
The Met? Yes.
Right. But there's a lot more institutions who are putting stuff up on the Internet Archive. You know, they have that whole sort of public domain area where all these museums are adding stuff. Mostly people are, a lot of museums, not the Met, of course, using this as a way to for publicity for their organization, and they just want attribution. Outreach. As all of us want attribution for those photographs that are in our collection, that are unique to our family collection, or we hope they're unique, not necessarily, because an unidentified photo in my collection could be identified in my cousin's, but you want it known that they're your photos, that they came through you for reasons, as Linda said. Maybe you have a question that you want answered, and putting those 4 things in your metadata seems like a no-brainer.
Yeah, and the information as to who, as what collection has come from, or you as the owner of that collection, to be the contact point for permission to use the photos. Because I think
Exactly.
as we all try and find nice private places to share our photos with family, but if we are using them, I found a treasure the other day though, so I'm not upset. Some of my cousins have decided that Facebook is the place to share all the old family photos that they're taking pictures of with their phone, and I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
please don't do that, because the quality is horrid, because they also besides stripping metadata, they're compressed, but it's also and they're private groups, but I maybe I don't trust big corporations that much, but it's like, how private is it? And you've put those photos up there so they can now be downloaded. Like I found, I see we're running to 6 o'clock. We're going to run overtime. I couldn't believe it. I thought, how did we just kill a whole hour here?
Yeah.
We're talking about this. It
Well,
seems like about 10 minutes since we started, but
we could talk a whole nother hour about the
I know we
misuse of
could. That's what
photographs
happened the last time we talked, Maureen. We could
and how
talk for hours.
things get lifted, right?
Yeah.
For,
Yeah. We
for
open. Yeah.
they get lifted for innocent reuse, like
Mhm.
put on somebody else's family tree, identify them as somebody else. That happens all the time. My inbox has been full of emails from people like that, or nefarious, where an artist decides, hey, this photo of these two people on the beach would make a great book cover, and people have been sued over that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Or reputational. And I think that's,
Reputational is
really
Yes.
important. Yeah.
huge today. Huge
And I
today.
think sort of as a summary from the point of view of our own photo collections, where I see it as I've gone away from, I don't need to fill all those ITPC fields
Right.
anymore, the hundreds of them. But I think
No.
that was one of the key points there, Maureen, is that pick there's some of the basic ones, and I think it is worth the effort to put the basics in the photo, because it is fact that stuff that when we find those pictures of old photos in our collections that have names, date, where the location was, it's it's like a joy. Those are joyful discoveries that, and even in my own, but it was more when I was working on other people's photos, like if I find information written on the back. So with digital photos, having the information there that can be seen by someone who comes after us to know what it is, I think is the most important part about it.
I agree with you, and I agree with Barbara. To wrap it up, the 4 fields are caption / description, name, date, location.
Yeah.
Ta-da.
The basics.
I think
Keep it
we've
simple.
got it.
Keep it simple.
Keep it simple. When in doubt, keep it simple.
Keep it
That's
simple.
exactly right. I want to thank you all so much for joining for such a engaging conversation today. Metadata is one of those things that feels scary and nerdy and has way too many acronyms embedded in acronyms. And it's a delight to have you, Maureen, with your deep levels of experience, perspective, insight, and the scars to prove it.
Yeah.
And of course, our very own Kathy Stone. I look forward to more conversations between the two of you in particular, to carry out some of these explorations. That's what Kathy's Corner is all about, is where, our family stories meet the artifacts that came down to us in all their forms. So
before we adjourn, Barbara, should we quickly mention what's happening in November and December? Because
gosh, Kathy, would you do that?
Would you like me to do that?
I
Kathy's
really would.
Corner in November falls on U.S. Thanksgiving, and Barbara basically only has a couple dates that she will reschedule around. And Thanksgiving in the U.S. is one of them. And the other, then of course, in December, it falls on Christmas Day. So that is a rather well celebrated holiday. So what we've decided to do, we're going to do one Kathy's Corner for the 2, and it'll be December 4th. And I gave Barbara the name of it and forgot it already. Pardon me while I look on my sheet of paper, because my memory is just not what it used to be. Postcards,
here it is, Kathy.
stories, art, and history. So we're going to talk about postcards because I'd seen a post the other day where somebody said, oh, and it wasn't not in our Substack group. We all know better, but Maureen will cringe, who said, I found this thing and it looks like a postcard with a picture on it. Should I bother keeping it? And of course I went, absolutely, you should keep it because that is the photo. So I'm not going to talk a lot because we did cover that in one of our, the whole thing about postcards and when they were and everything, but I'll briefly talk a little bit about the background of postcards and photo postcards. But what we decided to do in December is have another interactive session. So if you have a favorite postcard with a story behind it, please just bring your stories and your postcard and we'll talk about postcards because it's actually quite fascinating. What kind of postcards we could find in old collections. So I just thought we should mention the change of date for the next 2 months. So I'm done now.
Very good.
All right.
Thank you. It'll be
Thank
a
you all.
show and tell at Kathy's Corner.
Exactly. And again, thanks so much, Maureen.
Yeah, nice to meet all of you.
Okay.
Yay. Thank you again. Take care. Now watch for the recording with as many of the notes as I was able to capture. And Maureen and Kathy, feel free to send me in case I miss anything. We'll get this out to you. And of course, if I do miss anything, feel free to put your chats in. I always love to see the comments into a post, and it helps introduce it to others and it helps us get a real interactive conversation. So thank you again.
Yeah.
Till December 4th. Is December that soon? Scary. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.